So that takes us now. It's enough talk about the national championship. Let's now take a look at what we got going on in this national championship game. Number one, Michigan. Number two, Washington are meeting for the national championship. Now, ironically, if we still had the BCS system, this would have been your national championship matchup. Just a thought. I personally prefer this college football playoff that we had. I think the 12-team playoff could be beneficial in the long term as well, expanding from 4 teams to 12. But Washington is going to be a really interesting case study, okay? So, if you guys remember from back when we made our predictions in terms of who we thought was going to win the national championship all the way back in the preseason, back in early to mid August, one of the things that we identified as a requirement to win a national championship is you have to meet a certain standard in terms of the blue chip ratio. That number is 50%. Every team, according to 247 Sports, that has gone on to win the national championship all the way back to 2015 when 247 Sports started to record this information, have had at least 50% blue chip players, 4 or 5-star players on their roster. Washington, on the other hand, only has 27 total blue chip guys. That is less than a third of the roster being blue chip players. So Washington is going to be an interesting case study to see if they could break this mold or not. They're one game away from doing so. And one advantage that Washington will have over Michigan, they will have the quarterback advantage. It's not one of those, okay, we have a what is it? Like, I don't think it's a controversy to say that JJ McCarthy is not as good as Michael Penix Jr. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. So they'll have at least one advantage in regards to trying to go out and pulling this off against Michigan. However, though, Michael Penix Jr., while he was brilliant, he may need to be brilliant once again because Michigan is bringing that pass defense. This is the number 2 pass defense in the country, number 1 in total defense. They are an absolute problem. They could very well be a problem. They might also need to create some plays outside of the pocket. I think this is the type of game where Michigan is going to have the advantage over in the line of scrimmage. I feel like this is an edge that Michigan is going to have in the line of scrimmage, and also with the loss of Dillon Johnson as well, that we could also see the possibility of being a little bit short-handed in this backfield as well. And you also wonder, with really the number of one possession games that Washington has played all season long, do they have one more of those in them? Those are legitimate questions and certainly legitimate concerns that are to be had, at least initially, right? Because man, they are going. They're gonna need Dillon Johnson, I think, to really have like a real chance. So we see what the line is. We know the lines have already came out on this. They've been out for a few days now. since we saw the national championship solidify early Tuesday morning. It was a late night for those of you that watched the Texas and Washington game all the way through. So right now, the line is at -4.5 in favor of Michigan. The model is a little bit higher on Michigan than what the betting markets are. So Washington is going to need a brilliant performance on Michael Penix Jr. They are also going to need to win the turnover battle. This is not a type of game where you can make as many or more mistakes as Michigan and be expected to win the game. I don't think that necessarily happens here. I don't think that's necessarily the case. They got to win the turnover battle. Michael Penix Jr. has to be brilliant. And I think if you want to win this game, if you're Washington, I think what you got to do is just is that you got to have the ball last. Plain and simple. Because Michigan showed in the Rose Bowl when it's late, 2 minutes left to go in the ball game, they need a score to force overtime. They can also get it done too. They found the ways to make that happen. So, all that considered, who do I think is going to win this national championship? Well, if you remember back from when I made my predictions and who I thought was going to win the national championship, I thought Michigan was going to go ahead. They're going to win it all. And while I'm rooting for Washington to win this game personally, I'm a Ohio State / Cincinnati sports fan. I don't think that Washington has enough as a team to pull off another win against Michigan. So we're going to go with Michigan to ultimately win this game. But I think that Michigan just has too much talent to be denied of a national championship 3 times in a row in the college football playoff. Because I think those DBs from Michigan, they are legit. Because while they haven't faced the passing attack like Washington, no DBs, they stopped the Alabama deep game. And they also did a very good job slowing down, not stopping, but slowing down that Ohio State receiving core that you could argue is the best receiving core in college football. And all Michigan has to do, literally, do not screw up like you did against Alabama, because Washington will take advantage. They have the offensive firepower to do that. But if we're filtering out turnovers, we're not expecting turnovers to happen necessarily. I think Michigan's going to win. We will go with Washington covering, though. It'll be closer than 4.5. I think it's going to go down to the last moments of the game, but I will go with Michigan. We picked Michigan to win national championship. We're sticking with it, but I'm excited about this national championship that is going to be happening on Monday night. I think it's going to be a real exciting one that I certainly cannot wait to watch whatsoever.